Hiya David, lovely to see you at the range again and catch up during the week. Just a quick recap on the key points from your session. As we discussed, you've made some nice improvements since we last met. There's still pieces in there that need to be tidied up, of course, but you have made some good progress since we last met. It's a better version, of the swing that we started with. So we take a look down the line initially, the work we're doing with your hybrid club. You can see that at setup, the shaft's sitting a little bit too high. You'd want the hands dropping a little bit. Now that relates to the discussion we had about your grip. If you grip the club more in the fingers of the left hand, that will tend to get the shaft sitting a little bit lower and pointing towards the belt line at P1, which would be ideal. So change of the grip, dropping the handle a little bit, so we don't need to worry too much about that if the grip's correct. On the way back, we see the club works, first of all, works slightly away from you. Hands come up too quick and then get pulled behind you by the way the right elbow works. So the right elbow, instead of elevating the club as per the discussion we had, starts to pull the club in behind you. And then from there, we still move over the top of that red line with the club moving out in front of the hands. So quite a lot of the detailed discussion. We ask you to get the feet flared out a little bit more, P1, with the feet turned out more, as we see here, minimum of 15 degrees, ideally for yourself maybe 20, 25. That gets the knees pointing out a little bit more, which frees up the hips to turn, allowing the club and the hands and the arms to work in much sooner on the way back. So flaring the feet out to the maximum amount. Felt odd at first. Your initial comment was that it didn't look odd once you saw it. The next thing we did was we put the shoebox in place, and we angled this shoebox in at about 20 degrees and had it on the toe end of your golf club, or just away from the toe end of your golf club. And the reason for this was to encourage more of an inward use of the hands in the early part of the golf swing. So from here now, the idea is to miss the box on the way back, so you can see the hands work up the green line in a much more appropriate manner from P1 to P2. The right elbow now can start to fold to elevate the club, so at the top of the backswing the right elbow isn't shooting out quite as much as it was. And again, this is something that does need to be tidied up, but will improve as you improve the other aspects of your swing. The movement then was over the top. Now in order to miss the box, we're going to move in a much more linear manner. Accumulator 4, the left arm doesn't work out as much, and bingo, there's the change at P6. You can see the club now more inside, less outside, nowhere near as steep. From there now, you tap the ball from the inside, both arms are straight, leg works much better on the way through. The left elbow on this one on the top, chicken winging as opposed to folding in a more natural manner on the way through on the bottom left. But the big change here came about through the foot positioning and the positioning of the box. Change of direction, much better. You can see the hands now on the red line as opposed to above the red line. So that's something that when you're out on the range practicing, you need to be working predominantly on that feeling of shifting the plane to the right, and use the box as an aid when doing that, so that over and over again you keep repeating it. In regards to the driver, as we discussed, got to do more of the same pieces. One of the problems we had, however, was that we flexed forward for far too long. So this is you at the start, too much flexion for too long with the driver. So you can see here that we've very much flexed forward in the upper body, we've flexed forward in the hips, and we've still got the flex in the knees. So that's about as flexed forward as you can get. So what we did was we talked about the key components and got you to isolate the key components of the through swing. As per the discussion, you'll tend to go looking for the movements or the feelings of the positions that are most familiar to you. So you can do this drill on a consistent basis, you're going to improve your ability to tuck the hips and extend during the downswing, which is essential with drivers. So first thing to do is we're going to tuck the hips, we're going to uncock the wrists, we're then going to max out the hip slide, and then we're going to turn. And you can see when you do that, you compare this centre image to the one here on the top right. You can see now that there's been an extension of the spine, an extension of the pelvis, and more of an extension of the left knee. Still a little bit of flexion in that left knee, but certainly more, so we're much less flex forward as a result of that isolation drill. So just play that back for you once. Take your normal setup. One of the changes we talked about was that you'd move the ball forward and keep the handle in the same location. But once you've got yourself set up, first thing to do is tuck the hips, then uncock the wrist, which is the raising of the handle at impact, followed by a sliding of the hips to help you keep your inclination to the ground, followed by the rotation of your body to face the target. After 5 or 10 minutes of doing that, what we saw in the downswing now was still a lot of flexion, but at this point in the swing now, we're a little bit less flex forward in the spine, we've got a little bit less flexion in the pelvis, and the left knee has lost a little bit of flexion as well. So is that the finished article? Far from it. Is it in the right direction? Definitely. The more you get to look like the gentleman in the centre of your screen here, the higher and the straighter you're going to hit your driver. The shots that you're catching on the top of the club, i.e. skying and pulling to the left, are typical of someone who flexes forward too much, which is steepening the ankle of attack, which in turn is causing the swing to move out to the left, as we see here. So excessive flexion brings the arms forward, whereas less flexion keeps the arms in. Particularly happy for you in regards to that change that you've made there at P6 with the irons. Well done. Great change.